So none of us actually make money. We just kind of live off the government. That's the big secret here. Cappy taught us the way.
I'm a Democrat this entire time, and I have 8 baby mamas.
And they made me get brain surgery so I could be a Democrat too.
Yes.
You actually need to get brain surgery at this point to become that. Like, it's pretty insane.
It's crazy, man. When I woke up from the surgery table, all I could see was rainbows, man. It was freaking wonderful.
Nice. All of a sudden, Joe Biden comes down to save Thor. It's like, Joe, what are you doing? Stop sniffing.
That was great, guys. Don't slam it. I mean, we experienced it.
There are people that are going to nullify my vote and vote for Kamala. Just that's the world we live in.
I've been living in that world since I've been voting.
I am being entered into a world where people prefer Kamala over literally a rock. I will vote a rock before Kamala. But hey, guys, how are you guys doing today? We are here gathered today on this beautiful Saturday to talk about something that is going on in this red pill praxeology, the space where we discuss and then men and why they do the things they do. It is the
Nuke.
I love Nuke internet. I love his internet.
You gotta give him Starlink.
Is it worse than mine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Nuke's back.
Monsoon where he's at. I'm sure there's plenty of outages. Yeah.
I'm back.
He's back.
Anyways, we're here to discuss the intellectualization of intersexual dynamics, meaning people are depending too much on charts, information, data, and books, and not on their own experiences and the experiences of other men who go through the same things they do, which is what the red pill is based on. And the inspiration for this was seeing one of the more viral content creators, Homath, and all the debates that red pill content creators do. And it always boils down to my numbers are better than your numbers, and this is why. And the big component here is that even you guys in the chat, like a lot of you guys probably have more experience than a lot of these dating gurus or dating scientific researchers, right? Because you've actually gone out and talked to women. You've actually gone out there, you got your heart broken, you got hurt, you've hurt women too, you learned the game, right? And that's part of life, right? So that's where that inspiration for today's show is coming from. Now, are all stats bad? Let's start with Cappy. Cappy, are stats all bad? Can we trust them? I know in economics, that's basically your job is to look at the numbers and come to a conclusion. But are all stats bad?
It's not the stats, it's the people. Can you hear me all right? Am I coming in all right? Okay, yeah, it's the person you're trusting who came up with the statistics. For example, I'd say nearly all of the social sciences and liberal arts fields, you could say 95% of it is bullshit because the people have a political motivation. Most economists, most journalists, I could create whatever narrative you would like with statistics. So it's whether you trust the person or not. But if you have an intellectually honest person who has no political bias and just wants to go and get the numbers and the statistics, you can trust them as good as the statistics are. A lot of the data I collect, it's the best available. We don't always get the type of statistics you like, but assuming there's no bias and the methodology and the numbers accurately reflect reality as much as possible, yes, then not only can you trust it, that's the only thing you can trust because there's no better data. So I will always take, just in general, statistics and numbers over people's rationalizations or theories or flawed logic because it's usually impaired by emotion. I will always take numbers over people's opinions simply because that is an actual attempt to measure what is happening in reality. So I like Homath's approach because it's logical and numerical. But yeah, I don't have time for sophistry. I only have time for facts and numbers.
Good for you. That's awesome. Love that.
And good night, everybody. Let's go hiking. Okay.
I mean, the biggest problem with Homath is that he uses his numbers and theories to then moralize everything. If you read the tweet where this whole show is about, like,
he doesn't use numbers. What he does, he compartmentalizes a lot of stuff that guys in the red pill have been talking about for a long time. PUAs. I don't think he uses numbers so much as more as, hey, this is a phenomenon. I'm going to put it in this box. I'm going to put a little descriptor, do a drawing, and then go
Well,
from
and
there.
what he does then is he starts to moralize with the type of men who can attract multiple women at once are heavily responsible for the decay of marriage and families through wasting women's time with selfish games. It's like, Brohim, does thou have agency, yes or no? It's always comes down to like, guys are wasting women's time. Like, no, women want to waste their time with these men. All those girls DiCaprio is dating, it's like they want to be with him until they're 25. All the girls Nuke, Cappy, Thor, Hawk have dated who were in their early 20s, they wanted to spend their time with us. We didn't, like, I was honest, like, right off the bat, where it's like, I don't want a relationship right now, back at the day. This is only going to go this way and no other way. You are free to leave. And they didn't. Now, who's wasting whose time here? Nobody. It was all free will. They wanted it. I wanted it. We both were consenting adults who knew what they were up to. Yet, here he is seeing the phenomenon. It's like, well, you shouldn't do that. That horrible word again. Shouldn't.
So
Jack
our
brings up
issue.
a really good point, and because I've kind of watched him and others, been in the space for a while, of course, guys, and he does some really good work, but he leans into that morality with the red pill thing, which I've seen so many guys do, man. They come in here, they learn the basic information, and for some reason or other, they try to moralize and integrate it into a larger picture and broadcast that out. Is it just so that they can get views? Is it because it's sensational? Or is it something they believe in their heart of hearts? This should be moralized somehow, when at least us in the red pill, we really try to stay away from those moral judgments and let the user decide what's right and what's wrong. And so I do see your point, Jack. I think it's a really valid point. And I don't think whole math is isolated here. I think there's plenty of guys that jump into this space that end up doing that.
Yeah, if you can figure out how to get men to stop accepting these opportunities, it's like, no, how about we teach men how to get more of these opportunities so they can actually live a happy life?
Yes.
So our main complaint about home math here is not necessarily his diagnosis, it's the prescription, or maybe even the fact that prescriptions are offered as opposed to letting each man take a look at the diagnosis and the research and the data, and that there should be no recommendation, which I'm not necessarily against that because he's saying what? It's now men's fault. That was the main contentious issue.
Well, it's always the hey, man up.
Yep.
Kind of deal.
You never see this argument coming from guys who are actually successful, or like spin plates, have multiple dates with multiple girls, have multiple relationships, actually see the side of this current dating marketplace that everyone is working their way through. I mean, this always comes from guys who, quite frankly, just don't know what they're talking about. I mean, if you actually get down to it, get down into the trenches, you see some of the fucked up decisions that women make and some of the futile attempts that guys make, particularly when they're first starting off in this space to try and correct women's behavior. And you kind of just realize, yeah, I'm a little bit powerless against the whole media atmosphere, the whole government, everybody who's telling women to go and live a certain way. It's like, what are you going to do, man? They're going to make some stupid decisions.
Hey, I think you hit it. Yeah. That might be a feeling of powerlessness. Therefore, you can moralize and lash out on some of these truths that we put out there. That might be it.
But it's also always men. It's always men's fault. It's always men who need to fix it. It's always men who caused it. It's like, no. Does thou have agency, yay or nay? Like, either women are equal or they're not. You can't have one or the other. Well, now we can in this society, but this small percentage of men, however much it is, the top 20%, they are not the cause of the decline of marriage. Like, Nuke, remember what you said before we went live? If women wanted a relationship,
they would be in a relationship. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's it.
That simple.
The false law rules supreme.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is the absurdity and how realistic is it to tell a guy who is a top 5% in keeping, say, 5 or 10 women off the market from other men because girls are all chasing after him. Why would he give that up? Why should he give that up?
He shouldn't.
Also, in his defense, he must have worked very hard to get to where he is to be in that top echelon of men. But morality aside, he's not going to give up a harem. Why would a guy? I didn't. I remember I was like, peak at my dancing and all that. Dude, yeah, I was dating about 5 girls. And a friend of mine, good guy, he's like, dude, like, how is there a girl you haven't slept with here? And I'm like, well, yeah, there's that one over there and that one. No. Like one that I'm interested in. I'm like, not really, no. And but it was we were keeping them off the market. Aaron, be charitable and let us have a shot. No. One, they're not really that interested and they're going to choose what they're going to choose. But no, I'm not going to give this shit up if I could work hard for it. So I don't know. Jack's right. People are making choices, but the idea of should, that the discussion of should not be in the conversation.
That's why I keep saying
Sharon is a Karen, right?
No, but that's why I keep saying change the word should into could. You could get married. You could not choose like multiple women at the same time, whatever. But do you want to? Do you want to?
Really?
Go ahead, Huck. Sorry.
The other thing that goes on with this when you start to become successful and go through that Pareto distribution that everyone likes to talk about in these spaces and such like that, it's not just that you notice the changes of women and such. You also notice the changes of men. And what I mean by this is you see this all the time, like with these guys at the bottom, so to speak, where they want to have like all the men get together and all the men rise up and everything like this. There's this absolutely fucking fantastic tweet. It was either by Zero HP Lovecraft or Kofefe Anon, and they said, and I quote, if you think women are the main problem in sexual discourse, you're not sexist enough. And I love that tweet because it just points out right away that the biggest problem actually is dudes just not doing anything with themselves. That's the fucking problem. All right. You can't expect other guys to sacrifice the stuff that they've worked hard for to help some Joe Schmo who's 300 pounds overweight and can't even look at his dick in the mirror. All right. That is the fucking problem.
Or socially awkward. Like
yeah, that too.
Like you refuse to go out and talk to people, and that's somehow my fault, dude. Like I don't fucking get it. Like that's not my problem.
Yeah, you're expecting these guys are expecting other successful guys.
Sexual communism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like dude, you got to get yours, and it's like no. All I got to say is there is no feeling of a guy realizing he has agency in his dating life, and then like finally understanding like, hey, it's on you, and you have the power to change things. Like you crying about it is not going to get you anywhere, because like I'll tell the incel guys like, hey, around 40 it drops off. Most people lose their virginity or have sex by 40. Like most people you will have sex at some point, even by accident. You will have sex. When you look back, when you finally have it, you're going to look back and be like, wow, it was that simple. I wasted all those years making it harder than it really was. And I wasted all that time. Now, and that's depressing because you resign yourself to being incompetent, and that's what you get.
Yeah. It's hard until it's not.
Yeah. To bring it back to like the statistics and over intellectualizing the red pill, there is this, I've been criticized too for going after this whole math guy, right? And me on me on Twitter. I'm kind of brutal when it comes to criticizing people, but I do it for a reason. And the reason is that this is a battlefield of ideas, right? If you're going to come here and try to make money and try to stick your flag in the ground, like I know everything, listen to me because I have the moral key to help society become better, people are gonna push back, right? And my criticism was this. You're helping a lot of people. And a lot of people say they helped me, right? But how many people are actually taking those charts and using them and improving their lives and going out to talk to women? Think about that for a second, right? Like one of the coolest things about the red pill that I like is that we say, hey, here's the information. I don't give a shit what you do with it. I'm not your father. I'm not here to hold your hand. You are a man. Like we're not in this together. And a lot of guys get offended by that. And they're like, yeah, this is not a brotherhood. Your brotherhood's in real life. Like your people you work with, the people you love and care about, not some guy named Nuke on the internet who doesn't even know who you are. Now, why is that a problem? Let's start with Thor. Why is it that guys come to the red pill and get mad that we just say, hey, this isn't about a brotherhood. It's about taking action. Leave us out of it. This is about you. You're muted, Thor.
Well, Cappy stated it once again. There's an inherent laziness, and we've all been trained, excuse me, that life is supposed to be fair by all our mommies, you know, everything's supposed to be equal. We all get a participation trophy. So it's hard to improve yourself and make yourself competitive in the sexual marketplace. So I think that's a big factor for sure when they come to this space. Most of the guys come to this space because of their failures, the trauma that they've had with women in relationships. So, and then to come to find out that what people have told you about relationships is kind of wrong. You know, it's kind of wrong about how women actually are. They conceal it. They're sugar and spice and everything nice, and us guys are something else. And this is kind of universal, at least across the West. And then you find out that's not actually true. They're just human like everybody else, and they have these instincts and drives that make them something different than we idolize them for. So they come into this space and they're pretty angry about it, because who likes to be lied to, particularly socially or in some ways that affect your life, and then find out it's all wrong. It's like a giant conspiracy that crashed down on your head. That's why we call it the red pill. It's like the Matrix. It's like having this veil lifted from your eyes of this wonderful Disney life where you have a picket fence, somebody's picked out for you, it's predestined, and you'll gain one-itis and everything will be happy from now on. And you pass through this veil and it's all wrong. You're actually in this crazy purgatory where everything's different. So guys get pretty angry here in the space.
Yeah, Jack, I have a question for you. So people like these charts, they like these stats, they like anything that supports the doom and gloom. Like, hey, if you know all that. Obviously, I like to use stats in order to come to a conclusion and then use my own experiences to come to my own conclusion. Yes. But let's say people will be like, okay, here's a TikTok video of some chick. We all know that all TikToks are contrived and they're all, you know, FGR, right? They're all FGR, like John Fitch says, FGR. So these guys watch these TikToks and then they find this chart, right? Like, oh, wow, everything's laid out. This is helping me so much. Why is it that guys that refuse to go out and talk to women and at least form their own opinion and forget about compartmentalizing every part of human behavior, why do they like these charts? Why do guys that focus on are inactive, they don't take action, love science and charts and all that stuff?
Because it's easier. It's a buffer. They don't get rejected. They don't need to get out there. They don't need to put in the work.
Yes. Yes.
They don't need to, like, and this is what I meant during Ryan's show when he mentioned 5x5. And I said, like, look, 5x5 is the most simplest program, yet guys can't even do that. It's like they can't do it because they don't want to. I have introduced that program to so many guys, and they were like, yeah, no, I'm going to the machines first, and I'm going to train arms first, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you asked me what a good starting program is, yet here you are, and you can't even do that. You can't even follow the most basic principles of weightlifting. Why? Because, like, do you really want it? No, you don't. So they focus on these charts. They focus on all these weird other things to just be able to tell themselves, oh, no, I don't have to because this chart said this. And I remember years ago with Rob, I used to call them non-ass wipers because that's the mentality. Why wipe your ass if it gets dirty again anyway? That's the mentality they have.
Yeah, it's like they're above it. Like, oh, dating is immoral, so I'm not going to participate in it. And I'm like, no, dude, you're just afraid of rejection. It always goes down.
Dude, you nailed it. They're cowards and they're lazy. And dude, I had to stop. I did an epic rip apart the how do I get that girls, because it's always some fucking nerds, some fucking, no offense, STEM, IT, computer science types who want to break it down into a simple formula. And the simple formula never involves working out at the gym, expending calories of energy, working hard, and getting your ass shot down 80% of the time. They're just little pussies who don't want to work, and they're looking for the magic form, literally looking for magic. If I have my cufflinks this way and I comb my hair that way, and if I wear the right type of clothes, then peen get touched. It is always just they think there's just some kind of magic words to utter, and then they get laid. When in reality, they are weak and cowardly men who don't want to go to the gym and get shot down. That's it. And you come to that crossroads where here's the red pill. And this applies to anything in life. Does anything in life that's good and worthwhile come with no effort?
No.
No, you have to, whether it's a career, whether it's physical gains, whether it's women, you must put in the effort to have some kind of success. And these cowardly little snively pieces of shit, all they want you, well, what about this? What about this? Oh, yeah. Like girls putting on weaves and nails and heels, but they're fat. Fuck right off. And it's so hypocritical when these people, because I have the numbers and the statistics, and it's very dire. It's very much an uphill battle. That much is fact. That much is true. But they always then use it as an excuse. So you got basically three options. You could complain and hate on women and how unfair it is. That's not going to lead to success. You could say, you could do an actual cost benefit analysis, say, oh, fuck this. My life ain't worth this. And you actually go your own way and you stop complaining about women forever again. And the second one is you get off your ass, you put in the work to become a top tier guy, and you have success with women. Those are the only three options.
Oh,
and I'd say,
that's all
I was going to
got.
say, damn near 90% are going to complain or kind of actually go there, which would be more intellectually honest. But there's a 10% of guys like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And that's why you're looking at 10% or 5% of the guys getting all the girls, because there's so few men willing to put in the work.
Yeah. I think it just boils down to that. Like all these stats, like you see these red pill debates, right? And God bless Rollo for doing them. But it all boils down to the afraid of rejection. It's all that. Like men will be like, Tinder sucks. Well, like Tinder is a buffer against rejection because you're not facing a woman and a woman's not telling you no, right? It's just a swipe left or a swipe right, you know? Tinder sucks because you're not living in the moment and getting and talking to a woman. Obviously, it's a tool, right? Use it wisely, but everything in life, you can't just chart your way through life with graphs and charts so you can get the perfect outcome. You're going to eventually have to use your own instincts as a man, that the ones that millions of years of evolution gave you, or if you believe in God, that God gave you. Those are what you're going to have to go off sometimes. And it's scary. Like there are times where I'm in situations where I don't know what to do. And I just say, well, my gut feeling tells me this, and I'm going to do it. And guys, they want the perfect answer. They want the chart. They want to say, okay, a girl said this. Let me go to my chart. I'm at corner 5E. 5E states that I'm a sleeper, meaning that I'm just a guy she's not that into.
It could also be that the other thing is they approach it like it's software or a flow chart, and it's inhumane. Like you have to develop a personality too. You must be charming. You must be witty, and you got to be playful. So if a girl does that, you don't have time to consult the chart or run through your algorithm. You got to be on the fly and just kind of like, oh, zing, come up with a pretty good line or be charming and funny and flirtatious. But these guys, they just don't want to do it. And I can appreciate where home math comes in and there's like logic. It explains behavior and it gets rid of all the static and the background noise, allowing you to focus in. But once you get rid of all the I guess you would call them the bricks. Well, okay, we figured out the bricks. Now you need some mortar, man. You got to have that human interaction to keep it together and actually build yourself a wall. And they want everything to be bricks and no humanity, no pace, no nothing. It just doesn't work that way. And it's ultimately because they're lazy.
That's a really good point, Cappy, because you find with a lot of these same guys, they'll go and watch somebody like, I don't know, we'll give an example like Troy or something, who goes and does infields and such, and they just memorize a script. And then you have a problem when you actually get out in the real world and you're caught like a deer in the headlights when the chick goes off script. And you're like, okay, well, now what the fuck am I going to do? You can't just sit down and intellectualize everything. You have to actually go out there and experience it for yourself. And everybody on this panel, their game is going to be different. My game is going to be different from Nuke's. It's different from Cappy's. Jack knows this. I mean, fuck, we did 6 hours of pickup together last year when I went and visited him. Yeah, we're very different.
Remember those girls? Oh, we don't speak English. It's like, well, improvise, adapt, and overcome. So next.
That's a shit test.
Well, I'd like to point out
for a while, but it was just so much fun.
I think we all agree we hate Troy, right? He's just spectacularly handsome and he's got his fucking British accent. And
he just,
really I think we all hate Troy. I think that's a safe assumption.
He would have been really good for today's show. Really good.
Despite our intense hatred of Troy, the man actually has a personality and is charming as fuck. That's not an act. He can come up with that stuff on the fly. Now, he put effort into it, but the man actually is charismatic and charming. It's part of his personality. You have to develop that, and that takes work. And I mean, at this, it really is the difference between, look, do you want to go and chat up a girl and be fun and flirtatious and get to know her, or do you just want to pay for it? Because if you're that methodical and you're that mathematical, we'll just go and pay for it, which I'm not against. It's just know what you're trying to do. Do you want to seduce a woman, or do you just want to get laid? And then in that, without putting any seduction into it, well, then go pay for it, because it's a much more direct route to what you're capable of.
Yeah. What percentage of all these guys that are in love with stats and like to like hypergamy doesn't exist, or whatever chart and all that stuff, what percentage do you think of these guys are just actually neurotic? Like they are
all of them.
like
80, 70, 80%.
Thor, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, they all have that. And one of the nice things about Home Math, I'm gonna say something nice about it, is he is a creative, has been able to, basically take the crazy hot matrix, you guys are all familiar with that, and expand that to include female cognitive dissonance, your desire, how red pill has identified behaviors, and put that into something that's kind of entertaining, and it sounds real logical and sounds really precise. I mean, he goes these gals about their wants, their desires, what they want for a husband. I think that's pretty creative. How much of it is backed up by statistics? Well, he does have some statistics from the Tinder stuff that was very revealing to all of us. All of us spent some time, because it kind of opened everybody's eyes that had been in the PUA community for a while, and kind of realized, exchanging notes, that this was going on. And when we got that stuff out of Tinder, oh yeah, we can see this actually does exist. And that was really interesting. I think he capitalized on it. And I think he's actually been good for our community.
But he didn't even get that. Like, that came from Dataclysm.
Right.
Dataclysm, and there's another one. Can't remember.
But yeah, I mean, he goes into that. He talks about the gals with the apex fallacy, all valid stuff that comes from the red pill, right?
Well, what Thor is actually pointing out here is what stats are actually useful for. They're useful for actually confirming things that people witness out in the real world from real experiences. You can't build your opinion off of stats. Stats are there to confirm the opinions you actually go out and test and find in the real world, which is where people get caught
in which you can expand those, and experiment with them socially to prove them, like we do when we exchange notes. It's find them useful there. But like Cappy says, these stats, I mean, I'll tell you a story. Guys, when I worked in corporate America, I used to project manage as a PMP at some time. We would have these programs we would sell to the executives, very much like, selling sex or selling a program or a course to somebody. We'd sell it to the executives. And then as the project managers and the integrators, we would create a set of goals and stats. Do you think we ever failed when we did a pilot program? When we measured our own statistics, did we ever fail? No, because there was always money to be made. So we might be close this time.
So what you're saying?
So what I'm saying is, you can use these stats to your advantage or disadvantage. Like Cappy said, it really is just, it tells a story, but what story you want it to tell, it depends on your point of view and your bias.
So what you're saying is, if we just get men to get paid for dating, we'd have more marriage.
Well, we get paid.
Guys, we found the answer.
Problem with it.
We found the answer. Government needs to pay men to get married.
Well, there's Thor. I think you're alluding to it. There's guys that, and Red Hawk too, where there's guys that it's stats first, and that's a way of them. I think it's an ego thing. Like, for example, you have Date Psych, right? The Date Psych weirdo, where he says,
the genie.
He said something incredibly that I completely. There's no way this guy should be doing this job, right? He said that you should wait 3 weeks, like most men wait 3 weeks, or you should wait 3 weeks before you get a girl's number. To
what? What hour?
Right, and you see part of the stats and information and science, guys. There's an extreme projection there.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas guys that are on the field, right? I'm slowly leaving the field, but like for my little dating stint I had in Dallas for 3 years. I learned that you don't have time to like wait 3 weeks for a young hot chick. There's too many distractions in life for a young hot chick. And when he said that, I'm just like, dude, where are you Like, are you only interacting with women in a classroom where you see each other for a whole semester or something? And stuff like that, you can tell like there's a little bit of projection and maybe even jealousy, because guys that get it, guys that understand that women don't care about stats, women don't care about the future of the West, women just want to have fun. And
It's
the
about the
younger,
emotion.
the younger they are, the more they want to have fun. Older women, obviously, they have different priorities, but the women that we like, us savages, they just want to have fun, right?
I'll
So
tell you a secret. Those gilts want to have fun too.
you know what? Let's change it. All women want to have fun. All women want to have fun. They never grow out of it. They just get bitter because guys don't want to have fun with them as much as
Well,
before.
it's like that Ryan quote. He's like, "What do women want? More."
Yes.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
It's always more. Yeah. And like you could see with, and it's not only you can see people with these like careers based on science and relationship, like Dr. Sadia Khan, where she says women are like this, and the whole time she's just describing herself
Yes,
as
yes.
being the perfect woman. And you guys don't see that. Just like, wow, she's saying exactly what I want to hear as a guy. She's playing to my inability to get women. I love her. We need to protect her at all costs. I'm just like, guys,
Yep.
she is trying to get a husband, or she's trying to make her reputation. She is planting her flag in the ground, saying, "I am the right woman." You see this? Me. If more women were like me, all of you would be more happy. And guys don't see it. They're like getting manipulated. And then you have
all over it. Yep.
yeah, and then you have legacy guys that are very well respected in space, like Dr. David Buss, where at first he's saying all these like tough realities about men and women, even in a comical way, right? And then now they're just like, they get, gynocentrism, their jobs are on the line, they have to kind of placate women in these fields, and then the message gets muddy. And that's why stats and science around this stuff is so dangerous, because at the end of the day, they're trying to make you the man in the arena, like Teddy Roosevelt said, look crazy for you noticing something in your own life. And they're like, no, my numbers say this, but it's a projection of their own incompetence or what they want to be real. And that's why you got to be careful.
That was really good, Nuke. I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all projection. Like Chin Bun, State Psych, projection. Homath, he gets it. He understands the red pill. I'm not going to take that away from him. I'm not gonna. He knows. Like everything he says, you're just like, yep, that's the article from Rolo from 2005. Yep, I just saw that down the street. Yep, me and Thor talked about it on the Dragon ship. Yeah, me and Jack had a chat about this. Yeah, this all makes sense. But then he goes to say that like we have to change society, and I'm like, that's where we have to stop there, because society is going to be okay, right? Yeah. It may not be, America may not be around forever, but I'm bullish on America, and I've always have been. I would say if America is declining, it will take a very long time, right? So why would I sacrifice my life so your kids can be more comfortable? Why would I stop being excellent so your followers can feel better and give you more money? I'm going to be excellent. I'm sorry. Like that's,
So Nuke, what's your take on this? Because I like Homath. I like what he's done. The morality injection, I think, is being done on purpose. Look at what happened with the Department of Homeland Security, divert hate and all of that. I think they're trying to inject the morality situation into our space, particularly to make us bad guys. We predicted this over a year ago. You got the TradCon Christians doing it. Oh, those guys got the description, but they give terrible prescriptions. We really don't do any of those things. They want to ascribe us as a philosophy, an ideology, which would be opposed to a religion for various reasons. But I think it's kind of being encouraged for sure. I mean, Cappy, you've read the report that came out of Divert Hate. Your name's on it, And so I think there's a little bit more nefarious things going on here, and it's becoming popular to describe morals and moral judgments to the red pill. You're seeing it everywhere now. They really want us to be some kind of a movement, philosophy, ideology that they can adopt or detract from. It's really getting popular, and I think Homath fell into this.
What about how much of it? Because I like Homath. How much of it is just How much is Homath just a younger guy? And when I was younger, I was thinking like, we ought to do this. We should do that. We shouldn't be lending it. There was a lot of shit in my lifetime too. And you want to help out society. Yeah.
I have a question for you. So for you guys on the bottom are the power bottoms of today's.
No, let's not go there.
You guys, Cap, you're Gen X. question for you: how much of this is millennials? We had this messianic complex that when we, I think we've talked about this before, that when we were young, we were told we were going to fix the world with
Oh, you're gonna
our,
save the world, sure.
yeah, we're going to save the world, and we are the solve to all. Like the system was broken, and we were the golden child to like fix everything. And then we graduated college, and then we walked into an already well-oiled system that was working perfectly. It just needed a little bit more internet and Bluetooth, and that's all. That's all. How much?
No, I don't know. I don't, especially in Homath's case, I don't think it's because millennials were programmed to become Jessica and Jason Christ of the suburbs and save us all from the evils of capitalism. I think it's just a natural human morality to want to do good. Like, for example, hate him as much as you want, Matt Walsh, or though that gang. Or Dennis Prager would be a perfect example. That's an incredibly moral man who wants to do good. I think Homath, that's just natural, healthy human desire to like, no, we really ought to do this. This is what's good for society. It's not until you become Gen X jaded, do you see how society actually works, that you say, okay, that's nice, that's idealistic, but here's how it is in the real world. Here's how the sausage is made. You become much more practical. So I don't think it was any kind of brainwashing Homath got in K through 12 about get your booby and save the planet and the whales and free vagina and all that. I think he wants to do what's good. I mean, didn't he recently get married too?
I don't know, but he's kicking the ladder out from under him. Same as Andrew Wilson. I'm not sure about this, so
All of them do it. Roosh V. It's Roosh V all over again, right?
Yeah,
And
it's like, hey, I've had my fun and blah blah blah, and now I'm 40 and married, and my virtues have changed. You, young man, must do the same. It's like, no. How about you stop kicking the ladder from under you, you goddamn boomer, because that's what they are. Boomer is a mindset and not a demographic. No honesty. No, it is.
I know.
But it keeps happening. You see these guys, they get their thing, they get their stride on, whatever, and all of a sudden they land the magical good girl, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, all this womanizing was wrong, and TRP is wrong, and the rational male is just anger, and this and that. Like, there's zero emotion in that entire book. It's very, very objective.
Virtue signaling, for sure.
Yeah, and then the virtue signaling starts. And if you want to be like me, who is now happily married and a reformed prodigal son, buy my course.
Who knows
buy
everything.
My course. Because same with Date Psych. He's got this stupid dating program.
He's like screw you, mom and dad research, right? Because if whatever Rollo puts out there, right? Because he's obsessed with Rollo. I think he wants to have sex with Rollo or something. And he's probably not straight. I don't know. He made a list of the hottest red pill content creators, and who was the hottest.
I wasn't even on there.
That was the most catty thing I've ever seen.
He's
completely wrong, since I am not on there. This is wrong right there.
But we're below average gods amongst men, so don't worry about it.
I am at least an 11, sir.
I'm a 4.
And the thing is here that it doesn't seem like Date Psych has a. It just seems that he wants to counter the red pill, and he makes up studies and surveys that are not very scientific in their method, like a Twitter survey or something, and just to disprove the red pill. His enemy is not his goal is not science. His goal is to just take down the red pill and Rollo with it, right? Because
there's money to be made there, Nuke. There's money to be made there, and there's a lot of ways to do it. I mean, you can listen to. He's not the only one. There's tons of them out there right now. It's very popular to do that. You can just listen to these people talk. The first words out of their mouth when you say red pill is what? No. Listen, this is crazy. You ever hear anybody talk in the last few months? Just in the last few months, listen to any one of these shows around somebody slamming the red pill. And the first thing out of somebody's mouth when they engage in talking is no. Yeah, but no. It's like, I've never heard anybody communicate like this because I've kind of been out of it for a month. But right now, it's very popular to come. No, not true. And the person hasn't even spoken yet.
It's like a kid.
Bizarre thing to get eyeballs on them. And then I started looking into it with some statistics. These people get people indignant and they make a lot of money. People spend money when there's indignation. So I think some of this red pill attacks are motivated by that. Anyway, that was what I was getting at. I went too long, but
The other thing too about all these detractors and these reply guys and crybabies like this Dakes like Twat and all these other people, who are on and on about their statistics and their emotionalism and such and their arguments. They always have to have an argument, right? We have to disprove something. Come and have a debate, me, bro. It's like, well, first of all, debates are gay. It doesn't change anybody's mind at all about this kind of stuff. And also, like, there's nothing to debate with me. You can't tell me that such and such women don't go for alpha bros or something when, in my own experience, when I've been spinning plates, women have become more attracted to me. It's like there's no room for arguments here, sir.
Let me do the classic response, Hawk. No, you're incorrect with that. I have these studies. If you go back in history, 17,000 years, human beings didn't do that based on evolutionary psychology, which I can't prove, but I'm going to tell you that's what's going on.
Well, Thor, don't you see? It only happens with the guys who are 6 foot tall and go to church on Tuesdays that are left-handed and eat saganaki.
Well, that's not the proper Christian viewpoint when it comes to morals and changing society here.
Yeah. Well, a question for you, Hawk. So now we are in the an election year. Things are ramping up. We do have stats and all that stuff. And how much of these, especially, I would say, okay, let's talk about the conservative women in the space, barf, but you know what I'm talking about. How much of them are using or twisting stats in order to gain favor with men in these spaces? Like, for example, like I was saying before, you have female conservative creators saying, women bad and men be careful out there. Here's what happens if you marry a woman. And all the men are just like, yeah. Basically what she's saying, follow my stuff because I am the ideal woman. I'm not going to say it out loud, but
yeah, exactly.
I'm awesome. I'm not like the other girls.
Yeah, I mean, I linked a tweet in the private chat here it's a tweet by 0HP Lovecraft, and he's so correct when he says here, and to TLDR, basically, it's like there's only one tactic that women have for arguments, and it's basically wordplay, and this tricks up a bunch of dudes who actually think that talking to women means that women use words the way that men use words. They do not. So the whole point is, it's like, okay, I want you to do X because X is trad. And if trad is good in this woman's brain, then that means capitulating to woman is trad or whatever it may be. The words don't actually matter. It's just it's a manipulation tactic. If trad is a good thing, then being trad is doing whatever is in women's best interest. If this woman is left-wing or something, it's like, if woke is the good thing, then doing this thing that I want you to do is woke or something like this.
I wanted to bring in one of the biggest stat kind of confusion and one of the most emotional things that people have when it comes to stats and all that stuff. And that's the body count, because body count is a stat, right? It has been studied, right? But here's the thing. We ask women what their body count is in this study, right? We say, hey, woman, I know it's anonymous, but write down there how many men you slept with so we can look at your life and see what this means in an average woman's life, what the consequences of this are. What are the chances that woman's like, yeah, I gave a guy a blowjob once, but that doesn't count. Or I had sex with a condom, that guy doesn't count. Or I forgot his name, that doesn't count. And the whole manosphere space of all these guys that follow manosphere content are going off with some girls who are not even sure what a body is to make decisions on whether they're going to sleep with the chick or date her or anything like that. And isn't that depressing? Right?
Well, it's like the same thing we were just talking about how you're going to form all of your opinions on the dating space with stats. And you see this a bunch with like tradcon people as well, who get on the high horse saying, oh, if a woman is not a virgin, then I immediately casts her out of the dating pool and you can never date this girl. And then it's like, that's ridiculous. Actually get out there into the dating space. And in my experience, chicks who have like a handful of bodies, like 10, maybe even a little bit less, and again, that's just like a ballpark estimation number, right? Because you never actually know. It's like, they're totally fine. No, let's be real here. Actually get out there in the real world, date some other girls, and you realize it's not that big of a deal. Who fucking cares?
The only reason a guy is worried about her body count is because his isn't high enough.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
Yeah, neuroticism. It's male neuroticism.
It's almost meaningless because if you want a girlfriend, it's really the value exchange, what they can do and sustain over time.
The only thing At least this is for me, and I would like to know what the panel thinks about that. The only thing what would concern me about her body count is how many of them do I know, and how much of it will it come back to me? It's like, will I be made a fool of, kind of thing, like that. Who remembers that which one? Logan Paul's situation last year, where his girlfriend turned out to be this like giant skank who went through half of Hollywood or influencers. That's when I would say, like, okay, but that is more like the status thing than whatever. If it's like,
that's actually a good point, Jack. That social thing is really important.
Yeah, that would be my only worry, not like the amount, but more like, okay, who else? Like, and will I be made a fool out of?
When did we forget about discretion as being extremely important?
Oh, we forgot about that years ago.
Yeah. A lot of guys, you want stats, you want real information from women. Go out there and date women and stop shaming them sexually, and you'll learn everything. No date psych, no OMAD, no Dr. David Buss. None of them will be able to get on your level of understanding of women when you sit down with a woman. And it's like the Secret Garden by Esther Villar, I think, was it?
That is by Nancy Friday.
Nancy Fridays, yeah.
Very good.
You'll find that once you step into the world of female sexuality and dating, that all these guys are clowns. And I love you, Homath, but you got to understand, bro, that the guys doing the work, the guys are out there doing the work, and I know you did some work, right? The guys out there doing the work. We're boots on the ground, or we were boots on the ground at some point, and we're discovering things about women that take researchers decades, simply because they didn't know how to get women to feel comfortable enough around them to get the true facts. Hey, women watch porn too now. Yeah, I know. I figured it out 2 years ago. I sat down with the woman. Know. Yeah, I know. We know. And we sat down and we asked them what they watch.
Oh, they just told me. They just told me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm watching this like degrading shit. It's like, oh, dude.
Yeah, I like.
Tell you right now, on record, women have a more depraved mind than any man could ever think of.
Yeah. Hey, do women masturbate? How do they really grungy sexual questions? Yeah, they take afternoons off to just touch themselves. They buy a new vibrator, they get excited for the new vibrator, and they shove it up inside of themselves for hours.
It's such a beautiful thing, dude. It's not.
Yeah, and guys are sitting in a freaking lab looking at each other, white coats, and like, what do women do? Do women masturbate? And guys that go out there and get it and are humble and are really want to learn about women and maybe stop shaming them and get to know them for once. And they ask these questions and they get their answer in 30 seconds rather than 10 years of surveys with women they don't know in a cold, dark or cold white room. That's what I'm saying.
It's no different than any kind of martial art. You have to spar and fight against other people. You can't study jujitsu. You can't study boxing. You have to go in there and get the shit kicked out of you. And they just don't want to do it. But yeah, if you go out and date women, guess what? You learn about, but I kind of in defense of, I've pointed this out before. I always worry about my numbers being too pessimistic, but then I'll go out and date, or back in the day, or I'll get field reports. Like, yeah, it is that bad. I mean, the real world will correct. I mean, the statistics are coming from the real world, but that isn't going to help you just, oh, well, here are the real world statistics. You then have to enter the real world and start playing the game. It's like, I guess baseball would be a perfect example. No one bats 1,000. You fail the vast majority of the time, but if you can bat 300, you're doing damn good.
Paul's here.
Oh, hey, what's up, Paul? How you doing?
What's up? This is such a good topic, man. I miss you guys.
Nice accounting. That's a nice accounting lamp you got in the back there. That's a real old school. Yeah, look at that.
Makes me look smart, Oh man, yeah. I don't know what was said before, but this is such a great topic, man. Because I mean, my issue is it's not so much that analyzing what goes on in sexual dynamics is a bad thing, or even getting very analytical on it, it's a bad thing. It's that it's usually wrong. That's my problem, is that it's usually wrong because it's done from this place of like, these guys a lot of people have like this functional autism in a bad way, and they climb into their heads and then they sit there and they come up with all these ideas. They go down this rabbit hole, but none of it applies to real life, right? Like, it's not vetted by actual results in life, because they're not dating or talking to people who are dating or in relationships or going through breakups or any of that stuff, so it's not being vetted with what's actually happening in the real world, which is, when, Aaron was talking about, how you have, it's the day, getting results in the real world a bit is, at least that's part of what was being talked about here when I came on. Yeah. Like that's what's really important. You have to actually go out there and do stuff. You can't just be on the internet. You know what I mean? Just kind of talking about ideas that you're not applying or in any capacity, like a therapist or someone who coaches that deals with men who are, or women who are out there in the dating market, can get some data points that way. Sure. But I mean, you can't just be, in your little internet cave, throwing around ideas and going down these rabbit holes without actually vetting it out with real results and real information. But
hey, speaking of vetting that stuff, Paul, you're really good. I've worked with you before on the statistics and things like that. Do you have any knowledge? I know you and Cappy do. One of the things that guys in this space, and I don't know if Homath knows this as well, I'm sure he does, is that when these studies, most of them are questionnaires. And when they're actual studies, most of them are still surveys. They do something called hacking. They also do something called balancing, and then subjects of convenience. On these official studies, which is really interesting because all of these will point to a bias if the researchers have a bias in order to get this published and peer reviewed. When it's they're finding that when they go back and they do the replication, because of those factors that have kind of come into research facilities, they're not able to replicate some of this stuff. And against us too on the evolutionary side, because they end up going with subject of convenience. Just so you know, subject of convenience is I go and I hand select every subject and I pay them in the university to answer my survey.
Yes. Yep. Well, and that's the thing. It's like So most people, when they're looking at studies, they're just reading the abstract or the conclusion, which is a good place to start, but they're not looking at like how the study is being conducted, sample sizes, and those sorts of things that can tell you, what the bias is. You know what I mean? And sometimes when like a really smart and educated person makes a claim and says, "Oh, it's done by this research," the assumption is that that's correct, and so then they come up with all of these claims or ideas, but then you find out that maybe the sample size was 18 people and it was done
or less in the case of date psych. I've seen that too.
Oh yeah. Well, date psych has got a ethical problem with it. The things that he puts up there, to be honest. It's just a lot of things that he puts up in his claims are, he clearly is starting. So, because here's the other thing. When you have a claim, you want to falsify your claim. In other words, I'm looking, like if I'm being a real scientist, I'm looking for ways to prove myself wrong. Like that's the whole idea of testing a hypothesis, is that you're actually trying to prove your hypothesis wrong. And then in the process of not proving it wrong, you know what I mean? You're determining or looking at deductively, well, this hypothesis could be right. And so, if people are being ethical in their data, they're trying to, like when someone says, well, what if it's this instead? Or what if it's that instead? Well, let's look at data. Let's test it. Let's try to see if I can prove the thing that's, the opposite of my theory, right? Like that's how you really test something, is you look to see if you could try to prove it wrong. And if you can't prove it wrong, if there's no data to say that this hypothesis or conclusion isn't correct, and there's a bunch of data to say that it is, now you got a good piece, you got a good claim to make. But a lot of people are giving the appearance of that with their studies, but they're not really doing that. And a lot of their personal values and biases step in. So this is really interesting. This is I caught I'm going to do something on my YouTube channel about it in detail. But I caught an interview, Chris Williamson, and her name is escaped me though. She was I'll figure it out and I'll drop it. So she's a pretty well respected like female anthropologist. She's not stupid. Like her work is halfway decent. She wrote a book here. I'm looking at the thing. Anna. So Dr. Anna Macon is her name. All right. So she makes this claim, and this is where when I passively listen to stuff, I'm looking to poke holes and shit, And so she's saying some things that are good and that makes sense. And then she makes this claim that men and women are virtually the same when you look at their neurotransmitter and hormone profile, like when considering sex and love and attachment, that you couldn't differentiate between male and female if you were looking at their neurotransmitter and hormonal profiles when it came to attraction. That's the claim. Now, that's completely incorrect. That couldn't be more untrue, because when you go through the process of sexual attraction and attraction into the act of sex and into long-term relationships, the oxytocin response and vasopressin response is different for males than females. Part of the reason why it's different is testosterone levels. Males have between, on the low end, 300 to 1100 nanograms of testosterone naturally, and a female has between 10 and 70 nanograms. So what drives female attraction is estrogen. They have up to 300-400 nanograms of, I think nanograms is the one, something, actually it's a different measurement.
BHT conversion, sure.
Yeah. So females have like 300 to 400 of whatever the unit is they measure for estrogen, and guys have up to about 60, right? So naturally, so this is a big difference. This is a huge difference in hormonal profile that then interacts with the neurotransmitters. So things don't like operate in a bubble. What she had been looking at was the beta endorphin. Well, the beta endorphin is basically what we think of as our endorphins and our natural painkillers. You get that natural painkiller and that feeling of euphoric endorphins when you exercise, when you go to a party, when you go play golf. Like there's a lot of things that reward beta endorphins, to include relationships. But she's making the claim based on the fact that, well, you can't differentiate looking at beta endorphins on males and females in a long-term relationships, like who's the male, who's the female. But that's only one, and I'm not even sure. Like I'm actually, and I'm actually in the process of picking that apart too. But there's some new data on beta endorphins, but it's not conclusive to say that beta endorphins is necessarily the sole reason why we attach. I mean, oxytocin has been known as the love attachment neurochemical for a while. And the thing about oxytocin is it's exclusive to the act of love and affection. You know what I mean? It's almost exclusive to that, right? Like it's triggered most highly through the act of sex. And
Paul,
so
question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
Do you think that research like this, where someone has a study, like let's say a study came out in the 80s and everyone goes by that study, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, the food pyramid kind of thing, like, yeah, carbs are good for you, right? Like you're saying, like, it's all about oxytocin, bro, and blah, blah, like
whatever.
And then new data comes out where, it kind of complicates things.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when people are like trying to use stats to prove a point and things get a little bit more complicated, do you think that discourages people from updating their worldview because the old stats are easier to digest or more convenient for their own ideology or way of thinking? Or do you think it's just people don't care anymore about stats? They just...
I think that people have a hard time updating their worldview regardless. You know what I mean? So I think what happens is somebody they think they have the answer and their ego gets invested in that, right? So like they think, oh man, like this is the thing. I got it figured out. it's oxytocin or whatever, whatever. And then they find out, well, wait a second, men and women are different because men have less oxytocin initially that grows over time through the stimulus of touch and, physical, interaction with a romantic partner. Women have a lot more oxytocin initially due to their estrogen profiles. But what guys do get initially and get an increase of is vasopressin. If women have an increase of vasopressin, they become unattracted and irritable to their partners, which is interesting. And that goes to what vasopressin. This is why this is really good. Talk about nerding out. It's like, hey guys, don't nerd out too much, and then I just nerd out completely on this fucking show. But it's like, but really though, it's like it's interesting to see that because behaviorally, we can see that there's a difference between how men and women love each other in a relationship or in a sexual context. We know there's a difference. And when we look at the neurochemical profile, it's interesting because, I tell guys, like, she doesn't, especially guys going through divorce or breakup, she doesn't love you like you love her. So like you are thinking of protecting her, and she is not thinking of protecting you. She's thinking, now that the relationship's over, she's thinking about getting what she can get out of this deal so she can take care of herself and her kids, and she'll do it at your expense. That's going to be her mindset, no matter how good of a woman she is. Like I try to, so we know that behaviorally, but we also know it hormonally because women have vasopressin increases for children, and the interaction of vasopressin and estrogen without the testosterone, as much testosterone involved, would make them not attracted. The opposite effect makes them not attracted to the person they're trying to caretake for. Where if they have a vasopressin increase for the guy they're seeing, they're going to be not attracted and feel like they're caretaking for that guy like he's a child, which then makes her irritable, right? So that makes fucking sense now, right? And so then on the exit of the relationship, the oxytocin is changed into cortisol, a stress hormone associating with the guy. And so her feeling is, get me out of here, get me away from this guy.
And that's why I always say, always facilitate a woman's exit out of your life. Like, don't,
yes, yeah, for sure. That's great advice.
Yeah, like when I date, and I feel like a woman's not like you feel the pattern change, right?
Yeah.
The pattern changes. She's not texting me as much. She canceled our usual Thursday meeting or whatever. Okay, I'm going to back off. A lot of guys want to text more and double down more. I'm going to back off and open the door even wider for her to leave and be like, hey. And the interesting thing is, while Paul's nerding out, I also, obviously not at the level you understand this, but I also kind of figured this out by going out there and dating women, realizing that, hey,
right, this is what they do.
Yeah, like I can't text my way back into her heart. I can't try to, you have to just let her go. And you'll find more often than not that sometimes it came back into your life, not because you were so awesome, but because you let her leave in peace. And like she felt comfortable leaving your life. She didn't feel, women are afraid of rejecting men. They are terrified of rejecting men sometimes. So when they leave your life, they're just like, how do I do this without him getting mad, sad, or having this confrontation? And then when you're already doing the legwork by like, stop texting her, stop inviting her out, stop giving her attention, she's like, okay, I'm going to slowly slip out of his life and this is going to be awesome. And then later down the line, her new relationship doesn't work. And she's like, hey, what are you doing on a Thursday night? Hey, what are you doing? Want to hang out? And you're just like, oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. In normal, healthy relationships, that is exactly what happens 9 times out of 10. Guys are too afraid to give her the opportunity to miss him. Where it's like, if she is being distant, whatever, just mirror the behavior, and 9 times out of 10, paradoxically, she'll want you more. And Paul brought up a good point where it's like, she doesn't want she's not protecting you. And I would like to add to that, she doesn't want to be protected either by you. Not only is she not protecting you while you want to protect her, no, she doesn't want your protection.
Expand on that, brother. What do you mean?
Well, a lot of guys go into where, especially during the divorce and whatever, well, she's becoming a single mom and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And it is my duty as a man to be the good chimp and to still, even, especially since he is the mother of my kids, to still safeguard her and blah blah blah. But she's not looking out for your best, and 9 times out of 10 she doesn't even want you to take care of her anymore. She wants her new guy to take care of her.
Oh, I see what you mean. And the breakup. Yep.
Yeah, where it's like she wants to be removed from you, where it's like, get this away from me. Like, no, I need to convince her that I'm still great. It's like, no, her actions have spoken. You are no longer important. Why would you want to protect somebody who doesn't even want you?
But a lot of guys, they don't see it. They can't fathom it. I have a question. I have a question for Cappy. For stats.
Yes.
I know this is a question for everyone. This is for everyone. Are there any stats right now that would be incredibly useful for a young man? Let's say he's 24, 25 for dating. Are there any stats that he must know before he goes out?
Yeah, I mean, generally summarizing up my book, The Book of Numbers, only about 3% of women in the United States are marriage material, by best estimates. So that, and the pull away from that, the takeaway from that is very few women are either interested or capable of providing a traditional wife. Now, if you're a leftist and you're okay with FATX, if you look like the amazing atheist, the world is yours, man. There's a bunch of fat, unfuckable pigs that I'm sure you guys can all jerk off to a picture of Karl Marx.
That is a name I haven't heard in a
yes, because that's what happens when you're mentally ill. You just disappear after a while. But I mean, for more traditional minded men, yes, this is a very poor environment. I'm not saying women are even bad. It's just women have chosen to go a different route, is what I'd say. There's very little interest in marriage in traditional families anymore on the part of women. That would have major consequences for men making investment choices as to how much you want to invest in a career and chasing women and trying to impress them in cars and shit like that. So there's that. The other thing would be more of an old school, the 50-50-25. You can expect, or maybe a better would be a rule of 10. For every 10 girls you ask out, only one's going to say yes, and you're going to end up on a date. So that's just a general rule of thumb. It's more like 20%, but that's old school data from Gen X days when women wore skirts and didn't have penises. Back in those days, you'd have a 1 in 5 chance of going out on a date, but I'd say now it's 1 in 10. But it's just a numbers game. You have to do that. So I'm trying to think of anything else.
I got one too.
Okay, here's another important one. Marriage is stupid. I mean, that's a fucking ridiculous proposition. Please don't get married. That's just dumb. Was that going to be yours, Paul? Was that kind of your?
No. So close. Marriage is dumb. But here's one that I think is a good one too. That because I think guys, they want the long term. I mean, they do eventually at some point. I mean, we know that they really just want someone to touch their wieners. That's really what it boils down to. But they don't want to say that. They really want a long.
I want girls to touch my wiener, Paul. I'll admit.
I mean, let's just admit right now. That's really what we're really looking for. But they want this long-term relationship, and they have this mental paradigm of long-term relationships being both successful and natural. Okay, it's this idea that I'm going to find the right girl, and I'm going to have, and if she's the right girl, and I'm of course the right guy, we're gonna have a family, and we'll just we'll naturally stay together like our grandparents or something. I don't know, right? Reality is that most relationships are not successful. So most relationships, about half of them or more, and this is talking. If we look after the honeymoon period, after the 2-year mark. So before the 2-year mark, most relationships break up, probably over 90%. You know what I mean? I don't know what the stats are, but it's high, right? In that checks out, because you guys get in, most people get into relationships that end up breaking up before 2 years. It doesn't last, right? That's fine. But even past the 2-year mark, most relationships break up or are not happy. So over 50% of those, somewhere about 55 or so, kind of matching the divorce rate, those break up, past the 2-year mark. And then it's only 15% that could even be considered happy. Now that data came from looking at relationships that were past 8 years. When they looked at, a sample size of couples past the 8-year mark, 15% could consider themselves through questionnaire, not asking, are you happy or are you unhappy, but asking questions, because then people can protect their egos and say, well, yeah, I'm happy, but they're not, right? Asking questions that would, allude to their own satisfaction, relationship satisfaction, happiness. Only 15% of the people in those questionnaires were relationship satisfied or happy. So that means that most people, 85% of people, that get into a relationship that lasts 8 years, they're not happy or they're breaking up. That's a stat that guys need to understand for have the idea of having the long-term forever relationship. 85% of people don't have it. All right. They're either stuck in a relationship they don't like, and they don't like their, relationship partner that much on the girl side or the guy side, or they're broken up or breaking up. Like that's the stat that I think is really interesting.
Paul, a simple way, 85% of relationships fail.
Yeah.
In one way or another. Yes.
Well, even more than that fail if you look at past from 0 to 2 years. But even these ones that are 2 to 5, you heard a 7-year itch, right? All that stuff. Yeah, most of those are failing too. That's okay. It's not to make guys like, want to crawl in some weird incel hole. It's just have an expectation for what you're getting into. The girl you're dating right now might not be the girl for you in 5 years, and that's okay. Like, have a great experience with the people you're dating now. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. This idea that I'm going to have a forever person is a great idea. And I think that you can, work on your skill sets and vetting, and also your frame in the relationship, your game in a relationship, and finding the right person. But you're going to have to, my point is that it's not going to be natural. So if 85% of these relationships fail, and that's even after 2 years, what that means is being together long-term is not natural. So that's okay that it's not natural. It just means that it's not going to happen automatically unless you do things to make that happen. It's like monogamy. Monogamy is the least.
Paul.
Yeah.
We could send this topic to the Mayo Clinic, the ER room. It is so beaten to death right now. I think you made your point. We're not going to resuscitate it. I think they got it. Right. We can move on now.
All right. But anyway, I think that's a good one, though.
Hawk, what is a stat that you think will actually help guys that are trying to get out there and date women?
I'm almost even nervous to even suggest a stat at this point, because I just see such an over index of people in our comment sections, whether it's on Twitter, in our YouTube videos of whatever, trying to suggest like, do I have to read this book? Yeah, do I have to read this book? You guys should debate this. I was going to say a word we can't say. You got to go out and debate this guy or whatever. Just get out there, man. To be honest. Well, that's the best advice I can give for people. Well, I mean, I think one of the things I wanted to bring up earlier when we were talking about women and such, and their tactics for manipulating with language and such. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot in this space is men being raised as defective women. And I think one of the things that attaches to that is this idea that people care about you. And everyone is always going to care about women and such. But really, men really don't actually care about what you do until you actually prove that you're worthy of someone caring about you. And what I mean by that is, no one cares if you're going to go spin a bunch of plates. No one gives a shit. Nobody cares if you're going to break up with one certain girl or whatever. Nobody cares if you're supposed to live up to this romantic ideal of marrying the first girl you ever date or ever sleep with and such. Nobody gives a shit. And also, in another way as well, when you actually become successful, also nobody gives a shit, because people just want to be in your circle, and they're also not really caring. So I think people just get wrapped up in this idea so much of like, I have to live up to this ideal of what people are saying. And I just think it's very ineffective. Go out and make your own way.
Yeah. Thor, what is a stat that would help the younger generation of guys and that will help them navigate the dating women and all that stuff? You're muted, Thor.
I guess go
Sorry
to someone
about that.
else.
I have
Oh,
a
Yeah,
new-
There
yeah.
he is.
Now,
new
now I hear
audio
you.
system. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sounds good. So, what is a stat that guys can use today? You know, I'm not really sure there's any stats that can use. I think you should use all the stats and take them with a grain of salt. You know, what would apply in your life? Take a look at it. Are you seeing evidence of this in your life, and can it be useful? Hey, this is rule 0, right? What is useful? So, if there's a stat that's useful to you and you can use it to your advantage, or you can use it to project yourself out into the world and make things happen for the betterment of yourself and those around you, those are the stats you should use. Everything else is just a bunch of fun talk. Toss it out.
Yeah. I don't know if Jack's back, but whenever he comes back, we'll ask him. Stats that I say would be useful: testosterone levels, right? What is the average testosterone level and where you're at? Meaning you have to go to a clinic and
Of
you
course,
get checked.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Another stat that would be useful is how much you're supposed to eat, your caloric surplus to gain muscle. Those are the numbers you should be worried about. Another stat is how much is the rent in the city you want to move to. That way you can move to a nicer area. That way you don't have to worry about crime as much, right? All the outside factors that no one's really talking about to help young men are the ones that we ignore the most, right? Happy talks about this. Thor has a course on power lineman where he says, hey, this is how much you're going to earn in 20 years, 15 years, 5 years, right? And I'm sure Apex, Hawk, all of us, we kind of, the purpose of the red pill is solutions, right? To get us ahead, to give us leverage in the sexual marketplace. And it's not only knowing that how much the rate at which women cheat, it's also, hey, if you're on a bench, what percentage of your max should you lift? Which is like what, 80, 70, 80%. Those are the things that are going to help you. Guys are so worried about the behavior of women that we forget that, hey, we have to worry about certain stats that are actually relevant in our lives, because I can't control what Stacy down the street does. I can only incentivize her through my actions and who I am. But for me personally, I can control the stuff that I can control. I can control my body fat percentage to a degree. I can control where I live, right? And I think those are the stats that will help you more than charts and graphs, right? Obviously, I think that like putting your stuff in the female delusion calculator is helpful, because a lot of guys really don't know their value. They forget, they take themselves for granted so much that they forget they're a rare animal. Like usually the guys that put their stuff in there are like top 2%, right? And that's not to get you entitled so you can go around and say to women, I'm top 2%, give me your vagina. No, it's just, it's just so you can like have an idea and start valuing yourself. Stop taking yourself for granted that you are a valuable person, but you have to market better. You have to show off to the world in a positive way without coming off as a douchebag that you are valuable, right?
Dude,
and that
such a good point.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what it is. Stop worrying about the women bad stats, right? Because you can't control women. There none. Even the women do not care about the opinion of men they're not having sex with. They do not. They do not care. And even if they're having sex with you, maybe they might care about your opinion on some things. And if they're your wife, they don't even care about that. They just want you to be happy, right? Hopefully, if they're your wife, right? So let's forget about women bad stats and let's focus on how do I be a better dude stats. That way we can the neuroticism around whether a woman's gonna like cheat on you or not goes away, because in your mind you're just like, I'm so hot that I can get another girl. I will be sad. I will be depressed for a month or two, but it will be better than being depressed for 5-6 years and binging on home math and his charts. And that's ultimately the goal, is to have the mental models so you can move forward, right? Jack, now that you're back, I wanted to ask you, what is a stat that men can, like young men that are trying to date, right, that's actually useful to them?
Oh, you're gonna love this one. That apparently the men with most sexual partners could at least bench 225.
There you go. That's a good stat. Meaning that, hey, there's some correlation in having a nice chest and going to the pool and talking to a chick and getting laid. So at least you got somewhere to go off of. Like, hey, I gotta build a nice chest, right? So,
but also that it really depends on your demographic. Like, go to where the women are. Ian Ironwood used to write about this. Go to where the population is dense. Like, if you're in some town in bumfuck Idaho or whatever, and you're like, oh, all I get
or Nebraska or South Dakota, wherever Cappy's at right now.
Yeah,
Hey, let me tell you about the girthy women here. They all look like Paul. If you like Paul, if you think Paul's hot, have we got women for you in South Dakota?
That's right.
Christ.
For $100, I'll put a wig on and send you a sexy photo.
Whoa, Paul, don't you tempt me with a good time, man. Don't you tempt me.
Show us the cleavage, Paul. Show us the cleavage.
He was great.
I watch female sports in the Olympics now. They all look like us now.
No, it's things like that. Like, look at if I don't know if there's a Tinder stat about this, but maybe look at things like, okay, what sort of profiles do get swiped right on more? Is it guys with like bathroom selfies or like actual professional photos? If it says professional photos, what's preventing you from hiring a photographer and just get some good shots in? Things like that.
But the mosquito study said, or the fruit fly study says that women collect sperm in their vaginas for decades.
Look, I do want to give credit to Donovan Sharp, though, for one of the best burns I ever heard. She'd had more cock. No, she'd had so much cock, it turned her brown eyes blue. It's like, that is one of the best burns I ever heard. So credit to Donovan Sharp for that one.
Jesus.
Donovan's cool.
That one is pretty brutal.
Christ, that was a legendary burn. Holy shit.
That's hilarious, dude. I wanted to jump on Nuke's point here that you made earlier that I think is a really important one for a lot of guys who watch us too, which is there's a gigantic like global shit test on Twitter and everywhere where people, and particularly girls, are giving you a checklist of what you need to do as a man in order to date them,
all
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, like you need to make this much money and be this tall, and here's what your dick needs to look like, and here's what your blah needs to be like. And okay, let me just tell you, it's all bullshit and doesn't matter. When you look at these girls and their track records, they bang dudes and get into full-on relationships with dudes that do not match the checklist that they would put on the internet. And in fact, even just not even talking like divisive girls who are just throwing weird checklists out there or something, but like just the regular girl, if you were to ask her, well, what is it that you expect out of a guy when you're dating him? They'll give a checklist. And then if you ask them the same question of like, so was your ex, did he match that checklist? The answer will be no. Did the guys?
I value myself now. I'm different. I'm like, your last 3 exes were the same.
Right, exactly. So the point is, all that matters is their emotions, how they feel about them, how they feel in the situation, and how you make them feel. If you're a 5'6" guy and you make her feel attracted, she is going to bed with you. If you're a 5'6" guy and you don't make her feel attracted, she's going to say you're too short. You're right. Like that's what it is. They have a feeling and they have to rationalize the feeling somehow. And so instead of like letting girls who reject you pick you apart to find the flaw that you can't change as the reason why they didn't date you, just focus on girls who will date you and focus on learning good skills in communication and seduction so they feel good around you. And then they want to be with you. That's it. But guys feel bad about themselves, and they, because they're not out there dating, and then they read the stuff on the internet.
It's a buffer against rejection.
It's a buffer against rejection, dude, and it's crazy.
I don't need to try anymore. Thanks, guys, for letting me know. Yeah.
And it's sad, man. Like I'll see these guys like they'll communicate me some way, shape, or form, whether it's DM or on whether it's a DM or they jump in like my free coaching platform. And these guys are really like, well, I make $90,000 a year. Like this one guy on Twitter, he's like, he's a competitive bodybuilder, does not the jacked bodybuilding, but what is it? The
IBFB, the IBB Pro?
What's the division where dudes are pretty leaned out and swimsuit model look?
Oh, NPC.
Yeah. So anyway, NPC. That's what so in other words, he looks from a objective perspective, he's probably looks good to women.
Yeah.
He made like 90,000 a year or something, which is fine. You know what I mean? He had like a decent like stats, but he was like, well, I'm only 5'10", and girls want a guy who's 6 feet, and like all these things. I'm like, dude, stop listening to the internet and what some girl rejected you said, and start going for girls who will be attracted to you. Like,
Yeah.
I had to show a photo of like my hot ass girlfriend, okay, who's my height. She reaches high shit for me. She's like she's a former model. She's 5'9", 5'8", 5'9". I'm like 5'9". All right? Like where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I make her feel a certain type of way, so she's with me. That's
Does
it.
she help you in the grocery store where you can't reach the products?
Yeah, the problem is I got these lats and shoulders, so like I'm reaching, and I got lit, and then she's like all tiny. So she's like,
She can fit. Yeah. Let's get the super chats here. They've been the people have been waiting, so let's get these super chats and then we'll wrap, so everyone can go back. Like Cappy says, go back to our lives and stuff like that.
Which all involves hiking, obviously.
Yeah. Hiking and streaming. All right, Nonstop Dre with the $5 here. Morality is a weapon used by those who lack the money and power to change people's behavior to benefit them. Change my mind. Reality and nature agrees. Yeah. You realize when you have power, and if you don't have power somewhere, you don't have power to change something, you move on to what you can. It's called being an adult, right? It's pretty simple. Yeah. All right, another one with Not Stop Dre, $2. Most guys are coochie commies, term made by CGA. Yeah, sexual communism, meaning I deserve a girl, give me the girl because I'm a man and I exist. Yeah. Not nonstop. Dre again, $2. Cappy's game is asking how much at Five Guys. Cappy is not amused right now.
I'm listening. I'm just not interrupted. I want to go.
Okay, Nonstop Dre, $2. Why don't Spurks just go to the TFM route? He's on it.
Monkey.
Yeah. I don't know. Alex Patino with the $5. That's another reason I got away from newer anime, when it reinforces the nerd's laziness and wanting a magical formula to get the girls up. Yeah, guys. There's been an inversion where guys are the ones that want to be approached. Now, are you gonna get to a point in your life where you're gonna be so attractive that maybe once in a while girls are gonna like put yourself in your vicinity and like talk to you? Yeah, of course. But you're a hunter. You go out and meet women. You talk to them. You approach first. That's the way it was. It always has been, and it always will be. So, yeah. Alex Patino with the $10. Thank you, sir. At one time in my life, I had 3 girls near Fort Hood, Texas. Then I moved to Fort Benning, Georgia, and got 3 more girls. Sure, it was a pain in the neck, but I will never say it was wrong, nor do I regret it. Yeah, I mean, I bet all those girls are happily married right now, or they're doing their own thing. They probably don't even remember you. A lot of girls forget the guys they hook up with. So, Alex Patino with the $2. King Solomon was the man and had God's backing. Yeah, King Solomon was the man until he did that thing where he killed the guy. He sent the guy in the front lines to die. JJJS with the $2 Canadian. Date ideas in a recession: walks, picnics, parks.
You got it.
Wine date. Wine date is the cheapest / classiest date, right? And I'll give you quick reasons why. It's inside, right? Texas right now, the temperature is 102, so you don't want to be outside right now. You don't want to take a girl outside in 100-degree weather on a patio. A bottle of wine right now is $40, $30, $40, right? It'll get her buzzed, right? Everyone, like half a bottle of wine is enough to get me kind of like relaxed and not worrying about anything.
Hell, a box of wine's $8.99.
Yeah, exactly. And it is quiet. Like most wine bars are very quiet, so you can have a conversation. It's not like a bar or club where you got to be screaming at the person. And ultimately, it is seen as classy, meaning a girl will be like, "Ooh, a wine bar." It won't be seen as something like low tier. It's like you put in effort because wine bars are seen as classy places. So yeah, that is my suggestion. If anyone else has a suggestion, then help them out.
I mean, he already got it. Walks, picnics, parks, things like that. I mean, the date is you.
Yeah.
The date is you.
Nonstop Dre with the $2. Women want Chad ejection and attention, not protection. Yep, that is true. Nonstop Dre with the $2. Spurgs, but they say 50% of stats are false. Yeah, who the hell is they? They say, researchers say, people say. I'm just like, dude, we don't care. We don't care.
The IRS.
Yeah,
The IRS.
the magical goblins under the ocean.
Hmm.
Unrealized thoughts, $2. Who gets it worse, pick me's or simps incels?
Pick me's.
People who don't take action, unrealized thoughts. People that sit on the internet and discuss whether pick me's or simp incels are worse. It's people that live in real life and talk to people and get rejected and all that stuff. Those are the people that are going to do well in dating, right? All right, guys. So I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on. It was a good show. I want to end with this quote, and you guys probably know which quote I'm going to end with. Let me bring it up here, and it's the one thing that dating researchers will never invoke or talk about, right? And that's the man in the arena, right? And I'm going to read this, and we'll get out of here. The man in the arena, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better, aka, our detractors, right? The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt. So that's my life. That's my life quote. I use that because a lot of people like to talk and not do. So, all right, guys, we'll go around the horn. What you got cooking, and we'll get out of here. So, Cappy, what you got cooking?
Nothing really. The latest thing, kind of some good news. My latest course, The World's Greatest Accounting Career, available on Teachable. That actually, I advertised with Joker at Better Bachelor. Holy shit, toss him a couple bucks. I made $8,000 in sales in 3 weeks.
Really?
So, like, my mortgage is almost paid for the entire year. I want to thank Joker over at Better Bachelor for everyone who did. But yeah, it's selling like hotcakes. So it's been a very good month. So if you're interested in
I need to do that. I'll contact you. Yeah.
Contact Joker. I can't recommend him enough. Tell him I sent you. But if you're a young man or woman and you don't want to, you're looking for a career where it's very easy to get self-employed and remote employed, I can't recommend accounting enough. Me and Chad Elkins put together this course, The World's Greatest Accounting Career. Goes through all the ins and outs, roadmap, things like that. Consider taking it. It's available on Teachable.
I second this. Cappy and Chad got me into the accounting field with their suggestions, and it worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Cappy. Thor, what you got
Captain's definitely genius. I'll tell you, I'm a smart guy. Anyway, for me, obviously, I got my book. The sales are doing well, but I wanted to mention to everybody, we talked about stats today. An area that I have been very, very involved with since, at least the last 9 years, is testosterone replacement and hormone replacement on various levels. I don't talk a lot about it, but I did have a 3-hour lecture. I've been hired to give lectures on this, talk about steroidogenic pathways for both men and women. And I'm going to make that available to everybody in the chat right now. They can watch one of these lectures where the documentation, the stats that are out there. It's just not men who have been affected by the drop in testosterone. It's women. Women are actually 12 to 17 times more sensitive to testosterone and other hormones. Can't really get into it here, but if you're really interested in that, you can take a look at the lecture I gave. It goes right down into how that affects men, women. I talk about peptides, SERMs, why your health is important, and what you should be looking at as markers as you age in order to maintain optimal health, sleep, diet, and all that stuff. So if you're interested in those kind of stats being put together where you can look at the probabilities of, that's really what we're doing, is we're looking at the list of probabilities. What is most probable if I pay attention to these hormones in my body and I put them in a place where they're useful to me? Will it help me? Will it help extend my health span? And so far as we can tell, yes, it does. So take a look at that, guys, if you want. I just dropped the price of $30. That's for 3 hours of lecture and documentation with the bibliographies for the stats. So,
and get the book, guys. Get the book, Dominant Masculine Presence. And come join us at a Dragon Ship right after this.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, Paul, the apex man, the apex researcher here.
Yo.
What you got cooking?
You know what? I'm just looking at the way things are lately with a lot of stuff. I'll try to let me drop a link somewhere. I'll drop in the private if you want to drop it on the thing. But you know, I'm expanding myself on X and Rumble eventually when I figure out how to get my streaming over there too. But I'm looking at it, it's like, you know, we got to defeat these algorithms, and with the way that things are, there's more and more algorithmic suppression for people who don't already have a couple 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I got my stream got taken down last Sunday. Completely stopped midstream, gone, and it's still gone. Yeah,
and so it's an election time, and so like, you know, there's going to be a suppression of voices of people that give great advice, and it's going to be more useful for you than a lot of these channels that have like high subscriber counts. You know, like, I mean, Nuke's channel and streams are more valuable than a lot of people out there trying to talk about similar topics that yeah, for sure, that have 500,000 people subscribed, and yet you get your stream taken down. So pushing us off of, like, let's get off of these platforms and have real conversations elsewhere. You know, I dropped a link to my school community. Everybody's invited. I got a free section, and then I got the paid section for my coaching group guys. You're welcome to the free section. You can drop questions. You got an issue you're working on, something like that. Just throw a question on there. You know what I mean? We can support each other there, and then we can still do our streams on whatever platform you guys like, whether it's, you know, that I'm saying to the audience, whether it's Rumble or X, or whether you still like YouTube, but, you know, let's solve real problems and stuff like that and have these conversations away from the algorithmic, censorship and some of those things that are there. So I got my community there, you know, and when you sign up on the community, you'll put an email list down. That email list will give you, unless you say no to it later, will give you access to my newsletter. I've actually been writing again and writing some pretty decent stuff, like real answers to real things, all right, that you can action in your life. It's not spam. I do all my own writing. And, you know, that'll come out a couple of times a week, you know what I mean? And a couple of times a week, you'll have a nice little thing to be able to read. So just, you know, that's the free stuff. You can just jump on there. And if you have an issue you're working on or anything like that, shoot me a DM, you know?
Awesome.
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks for your contribution today. Hawk, what you got cooking? I know you had a stream last night. I couldn't catch it. I was out. Was it last night? I was out dancing.
Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
Yeah. So me and my boys at the Old Glory Club do our political news roundup streams on Thursday. So if you guys are interested with Americana news and all that stuff, come check us out over there.
Awesome. Jack, what you got cooking?
So I got a new Substack article from this past week. I would very much appreciate it if you guys go check that out. Go read that. A new one is dropping next Monday. So if you follow me there, you will be updated on it. And that is kind of it for me. You know where to find my YouTube channel. You know where to find me on Twitter. And that's it.
Jack, you got a YouTube channel?
I know.
All right.
Over almost at 3,500 subscribers.
Nice.
Almost.
Hey, shout out to Glenn Lawrence in the chat. There you are.
Hey,
buddy.
what's up, man?
Thanks for your help, man.
Is he coming to Dragon Ship?
Yeah, he's coming to Dragon Ship today.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, panel, for your insights. Realize, guys, it's overthinking, bro. It's just gonna kill you. It's just gonna kill you. These stats, all they do is make you overthink. You're gonna one day be in front of a girl. She's gonna be smiling, and there's no stats that can help you there. You just gotta be a fun, exciting guy, right? You're going to breed anxiety, perfectionism, feel of failure, lack of confidence, desire for control, past experiences, complex decisions, cognitive distortion, social pressure, lack of mindfulness, and information overload are all going to make you unattractive. And that's what we don't want. So thank you guys. And I'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.
Doodles.